This is lesson 6, variables and if statements. We're going to be going through levels 7 through 11. This is part 2 of the other video. So at this point, you'll want your Microbit plugged in if you don't already have it plugged in and set up. And what we want to do before we run this is we want to look at the code, and you're going to type in your prediction down here of what you think is going to be happening. So let's look at this code of what's been added. So we have this variable of y position, and we have on the event that the A button is clicked on our Microbit. So we click the A button on the Microbit. We're going to do that counter pattern. We're going to subtract 15. And we're going to be changing the position of the sun. And we can see here we got a new block of if y position is less than 315, change the screen background color to orange. And down here we have another one of on the event that the B button is pressed, we want to be adding 15. And we're going to set the y value to that new, the y position to that new variable value. And we've got this code here of if the y position is greater than 315, set the screen background color to gray. So type in your guess of what's going to happen as we press the A and the B buttons, and we're going to run it, and we'll find out here. So if I press A, the sun is going up, okay? And if I press the B button, the sun is still there, but we've got if y position becomes greater than 315, which our screen is 450 long. So let's see here, sun's going down, and then it changes to gray. And then it goes back up, changes to orange. So here's something really cool going on. You guys have learned how to change things like the color of the screen when people click on, when the user does an action, right? If they click on a button or they're clicking a button on their Microbit, and that is changing the screen. But what's happening here is it's not changing because the person is clicking a button. It's changing because of something completely independent of the user. So the user is not directly changing the background color. What's happening is we're using this logic of an if statement that if that variable, that y position, becomes more than 315, meaning the sun goes down, then change the background color to gray. So yes, the user is changing the y position and making the sun go up and down, but we're using separately the logic of an if statement so that if this becomes true, if that y position becomes more than 315, meaning that the sun is down here more, then run any code that's in here, which changes the background color to gray. And up here, if it becomes less than 315, meaning that it's higher up here on the screen, then it's going to run this code of changing the background color to orange. So once this is true, it kind of looks at this math thing set up here so that if that becomes less than that, then it'll run it. And we can look at that code again by setting up a watcher for our variable. So I can put in y position. I'm going to hit enter. And now we're watching that. So right now, because the y position is equal to 320, what's doing is it's looking at these. It's evaluating this math problem of y position is 320. So that's the same as saying 320 and 315. 320 is larger than 315. It always wants to eat the bigger number. Because that's true, then it will run this code. We want to watch this happen now because we can see as I press the B button, that number gets bigger, but now we want to make it smaller. And the second that this variable, once this becomes less than 315, so that 315 is larger, then it's going to change to orange. And so now we've got that up 305. So now what this is saying that if this is true, so right now it's 305, that number right there, because it is less than 315, that's true. So now it will run the code inside there. Nice. We'll move on to our next one. So now we're going to be using those if statements to actually make some changes happen on the screen. So I'm going to read through this first. So level 8 is increasing text. This app is meant to simulate someone whispering for you to come closer, only to surprise you with a loud noise. It uses the counter pattern to increase the size of the text on the screen. Once the text reaches 30 pixels, the text should change to surprise and a sound should play. And our instructions here are we want to add an if statement to our code to check when the text size variable is greater than 30. And then we're going to change that. So we've got two things happening here. So looking at our code, we have, we start off with a variable of text size, and its size is 10. So when we run it, our text size is 10. So on the event that the A button is pressed, it is going to increase our text size by 2. So it changes the variable, and then we use that variable to increase the font size of the text. So I'm going to try this out, pressing the A button. So as I press A, the text size gets bigger, and we want it so that when basically when this variable becomes 30 or more, we want it to then say surprise and play a sound. And we can add a watcher down here to kind of see what that's like. So we can say text size. So we can see right now our variable is way higher. Oh, but it doesn't really go down. All right, so I'm going to restart this here. We want to have it so that when it gets to 30 or larger, when it gets larger than 30, then it changes to surprise. So we want to add in our if statements. So this is going to, because we want this code to happen if that variable becomes larger than 30. So this is where we can use our statements here. We can have greater than or equal to. In our instructions here, they want to say when it's greater than 30. So we can say, we can drag in this block right there. But I'm going to be typing it in here. So I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to type in the name of our variable, text size, text, capital S, no spaces, size. When that is a space greater than 30, because this is going to eat the bigger number, I'm going to hit return, and now it turns it into that math block for us. So once this is true, then it will run the code. So there's two things we want to change. First thing we want to change is the text, and then the second is play a sound. And those are under UI controls. So we want to set the text. We'll do that first. And we want to set the text of the text label to say surprise, like that. Basically, we're doing a jump scare, really. We're trying to. So we want to have that. Let's try this out. And we've got our watcher right there for our variable. So as I press the A button, we can see it's getting larger, 28, 30. Now, here's one of the things, right? So right now our variable is 30, but it hasn't changed. And that's because it's not bigger. It's equal right now. So this is only going to happen once it becomes larger than 30. So we press it one more time, and it changes the text to surprise. Nice. Now we're going to add in a sound. So I'm going to click and drag in the sound block, and that goes inside here too, because we want to play this sound when it also happens. So I'm going to go with an alert, and I liked one of the ones that was like down here. Okay, I like that one. Go with that one. I'm going to click on choose. If you don't see choose, just keep scrolling to the bottom until this button pops up. And then select choose. And now, if we run this again, we're at 28, 30, so one more, and then it will run that code. There we go. Nice work. So if I was going to keep adding on to this thing, this would be a great jump scare. It's kind of like those videos where it's like the zombie ghost like pops up on the screen. We could have something like that, or like add in an image and other stuff. But we don't have the design toolkit on here. This is just, we did what we wanted to accomplish. But you can see how you could easily create something that would surprise somebody in different ways. It'd be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to move on to level 9. Okay, with level 9, we are creating a toaster simulator game. So this app simulates a toaster with a piece of toast that is in between two heated sides. The toast needs to be perfectly placed in the middle. If it's too close to one of the sides, the toast will burn. We can help alert the user of the burning toast by making a noise if the toast is too close to the edges. Then the user can press buttons on the toaster to move the toast closer to the center. So if we run it right now, I don't think anything happens. Oh, it does, yeah. Okay. So right now they already have the code set up so that we can move the toast. But the problem is that if we get too close to one side, it doesn't play any sounds. And same thing, if we go to the other side, it doesn't play any sounds. So we need to change that. We're going to create those if statements. So we want to add an if statement to the button A event to check if the toast is too far to the left. And then use the play sound block to play a sound. So looking at our code, we're going to do this for the A button. And we can see up there they have the counter. And here they're changing the position of the toast. So now we want to put in an if statement of if the toast is too far to the left, play a sound. So clicking on the control tab, we will drag the if block over. I'm going to think of like where do we want this? We want to think through this first. So I want to have it of like when the toast is say like here a little bit into the flames. So that's 60. So when the X value is 60. So if X position becomes, now is this going to be greater than or less than, right? It gets smaller going this way. So if the X position becomes less than 60. And if you're ever not sure of which way it should go, just again remember it's going to eat the bigger number. We want to know when the X position becomes less than 60 because that means it's way over on the left-hand side. So 60 will be the bigger number. So that's the one that we want, like this. Now we want to play a sound. So under UI controls, we're going to play a sound. And we can choose something here. And this is where you can get creative with this. Do like a pop sound. Sure, we'll try that. And choose. Okay. So now when it gets too far to the left. I want to point out something too. You'll notice on here there's a false. And you can select true or false. That we want to leave as false. But we can see right here what that is loop. So it has two parameters that are called for this. So play sound is the URL going to the sound, that file that we want. And the second parameter is whether or not if we want it to loop. We don't want this to loop, so we leave it as false. A loop would be if it would just keep playing that sound over and over on a loop. That would be good if we wanted like a background music or background sound like wind blowing or something like that in the game. But we aren't going to have that for this one, so we want to leave that as false. So let's try this out. And I'm going to increase my screen size here so you can see us a little bit more. And we're going to be running this code. And also let's bring up this of X position. Put in our watcher here. Up here you might notice that the toast moved. The starting X position for the toast is a random number between 0 and 300 each time. So now if I press the A button, and so we can see here, again, the sound will only play when it is less than 60. So right now it's 65, 80, 75, 70, And so now at this next button, it should now make a sound. And now each time I go to the right, it'll play that. You'll notice that if I press the B button, it's not making a sound. We're not going to worry about those two different directions on here. It's just going to be if it gets too close here when we're pressing the A button, it'll make a sound. Now we're going to do the same thing for the B button, so that if the toast is too far to the right, we also want to play a sound then too. So we're going to do the same type of thing of under control, drag in an if block, and now we want to say if X position is now greater or less than. I'm thinking about this, right? So let's say here 260. So if it becomes more than 260, then we want to play a sound. So I'm going to say greater than 260. And we want to play the sound. So I'm going to drag in another sound block. And I'm just going to leave it right there as is. Actually, no, we'll change that too. All right. I'm going to do like pop and scroll way down and choose. Okay. So now let's run this code. So A will bring it to the left, and B will bring it to the right. But look at this. Our bread is like well into the flames, but it's not making a sound. So like, why isn't it making a sound? Like, what happened? This is where the watcher can be very helpful, because look at this. This is saying if the X position is greater than 260, then play the sound. That means it went too far. And 260 is like here. But we can see that the variable of X position is actually only 228 right now. So it's like, we got to go way. Now it made a sound. Why is that? I don't know if you remember. For the screen and all of our images on here, that XY position is for the upper left corner of our objects, not from the middle or anything like that. So what we actually want to know is, visually we're looking at this of like when the bread reaches the flames, we want to make the sound. But right now what it's doing is it only makes the sound when the upper left corner of our bread image gets over there. And that's why like our whole piece of bread was way into the flames and going off the screen till it made a sound. And looking at this, we got it's about 100, 200. So our bread is about 200 pixels wide. So that means that what we want to do is, it seems kind of weird, but what we want to know is actually not when this gets to 260. We want to know when the upper left side is there. Because when it is 260, it's too far, so we need to go over more. So let's subtract 100 from this. So now, when the bread is at 160, when the upper left-hand side is at 160, the right-hand side of the bread will be into the flames. So now we can try this out. And we can see already, like, we're way over there, so I'm going to move this over here more. Okay, all right. So now, this is going to run. So now it's going to play a sound when the X position of the upper left corner of our bread is at 160 instead. And so we can see here now it's reaching the flames, and it's at 160, but it's not greater than yet. So the next one should make a sound. And now it's making a sound for that. So that's kind of a tricky one here of just visually, we want it so that the bread is touching the flames, but our coordinate actually has to be way farther over because it's the upper left corner. Nice work. So now if we go left or right, it gives us that sound alert that we are burning the toast. Nice work on the toast simulator. Okay, our next one is the Positivity app. So this is our last one before we get to the challenges. For the Positivity app, Hawa is making a positivity app where people can track good deeds or positive statements they make throughout the day by pressing a button on the Microbit. Each time they press a button, the heart grows a little bit in size. And when the heart fills the box, a sound should play. Hawa has already started the app, but needs help adding the variables and if statements to her code. So, for the to-do, we need to add a variable called size as the first line of code and set it to 30. I'm going to minimize this for right now. Because right now, if we run this, right, nothing's happening. We can get like a little error here, and that's fine. We want to. I'm just going to take a look at the code here. Minimize these things. So we need to add our variable. So we've got, she has an A button variable right here, and then we're setting the width and the height of this heart emoji to this variable of size. Oh, but we don't have the variable yet. So we have just simply, we've put the variable in there, but we haven't actually created it in our code. So we want to do that first. Because we're going to be creating the variable, we want to use this one where it says var. The difference between these two is that we create the variable and we give it a value. And this one, we create the variable, but we don't give it a value yet. We want to declare it and give it a value. So we'll click and drag that one over here. And the name of our variable for this one is size. I'm going to press tab to move to the next field. And we want to put in 30 for its starting size. All right, so we've done that one. Now, looking at our instructions, we want to do number 2. Add code inside your event, this one right there, to increase the size of the variable by 20 each time the A button is pressed. Okay. So in here, we now need to increase that. And that's going to be that counter pattern that we've used before. So we're going to now use this other variable one here because we created it already. We just want to modify that. So we want to say this, so our size variable, we're going to be changing it. And this is where we can use our math operator blocks, or we can type it in. I'm going to type it in. So I'm going to say size, space, plus, space. And we want to increase by 20. So that when we press the A button, we're going to increase the size by 20. And so now it will take the original size. So the first time we click it, it'll be 30 plus 20, which is 50. So then it'll change the variable to be equal to 50. And we've got that there. And here, Hawa has already set it up so that the width and the height will then automatically update using that variable. So let's try this out. And when I click on A, the heart is increasing in size. That looks good. Okay, so we updated our variable. What is our next thing? So our step number 3 is we want to add an if statement that checks when the heart has reached a size of at least 300 pixels. And then number 4, inside the if statement, play a sound to let the user know they have reached their goal. Okay, so now we're going to add an if statement so that it plays a sound when the heart has reached 300. And what's kind of fun about this, what I like about this idea, would be if you could, let's say, if we're making this app, we would have like our separate hearts, like our tracker as a separate thing from our phone app. And so you could have your phone in your pocket and have this as like a button, and then you could like wear the button and then press the button each time as your tracker, so you don't have to bring your phone out each time, and then it would just alert you when you get to 30. Or like, if you did something nice for your friend, they could like hit the button too. I don't know, it's like a bunch of different ways we could use this of where it's like you're making a wearable app to go along with this. All right, so let's add that if statement. So that is under our toolbox and control. We're going to click and drag the if block down here. And we wanted to know when it is 300 pixels or larger. They don't give us, like, again, our units. These sizes, these numbers are in pixels. So we want to know if that variable of size becomes greater than 300. And if you forget how, like, what this would be, it's just this is going to be eating the bigger number. So when this variable size becomes bigger than 300, then we're going to run the code inside there. And we want to play a sound. So under UI controls, click on play sound and drag that in. And we can choose a sound that we want. I'm going to do a bell. Okay, go with that one. Scroll down a whole bunch till you see the choose button and select that. All right. We are going to run this code, but we're also going to display our watcher of size because I want to know what is our variable on this thing. So I'm going to reset and now run. And so we can see each time that we click it, it is increasing by 20, our variable. And we're getting closer. So now when we press it the next time, it will increase by 20, so it should play a sound. Like that. It's like the Grinch and his heart grew 100 times the size. Something like that. All right, we got it. We have the positive attitude app is working good. Let's move on to our challenge levels here. Okay. For the challenge levels, we've got a couple of options. We have a text message design, use variables to recreate the design of a text message exchange. Water level app, create an app that simulates an automatic bathtub filler where the water level rises to a set point. Challenge C is emoji race. Create a game that uses the left and right buttons to move characters down the screen. The first person to reach the bottom of the screen is the winner. Challenge D is the age recommender. Create an app that recommends something based on the user's age. For example, recommend a movie or a book or a place to visit based on the person's age. And challenge E is debugging. The app is supposed to move an arrow across the screen and keep scrolling to the other side, but there are bugs, so we need to figure that out. Typically, these have gone where the first ones are the easier and it becomes more difficult, but let's take a look at these. Let's look at the text message design one first. Use variables that change the background color and the text color of the text exchange below so that it looks similar to the picture. It's okay if the colors don't match exactly as long as each group of messages has the same color scheme. So we want it to look like that. Okay. You should use variables to keep the colors consistent between the messages from the same person. Okay. And looking at our code here, and they've got different blocks. We've got message 1, message 2, message 3 is the IDs of our different elements. And we have background 1, text 1. Okay, so we've got different variables there. And looking at this, fill in each variable with colors that match the image above. That's this one here. And then here we want to use the set property blocks and the variables above to recreate the text messages exchange. So what we'd want to do is change these to kind of spell this out. So we'd want to change the background colors and our variables. So we'd want to first change the background colors here. We kind of created different ones there. Let's see. So we could say like blue. Actually, no, we want to do quote blue. And this one, quote gray. And let's see. What would we do with the text blocks? We've got some helps here, like we kind of get stuck on the variables and things like that. But we want our text to look like this. Text 1, text 2. I see. So that's probably referring to the color. So here, for 1, we want the text to be white. And for the other text message person, we want that text to be black for the color. And let's try this out. So I'm going to get you started, and then you will take it the rest of the way. I really like the emoji race challenge, so I'm going to do that one next after I get you started on this one. So for this one, we're not going to be using some of the events on here. Well, we're just going to be kind of setting our properties. So I'm going to drag in the set property of, I want to change this one. So message 1. And I want to choose the background color. And I want to use this variable of background 1. So I'm going to delete that text and type in background 1. Okay. And I also want to change the color of that text. So I'm going to put in another set property block. This is going to be message 1. And I want to change the text color to be this variable of text1. 1. All right, let's try running it. There we go. So the shade of blue, not the same. Can I type in light blue? Does that work? Light blue. Let's see. Yeah, that kind of worked. Okay. No, that's not what I want. What was that? I don't know. I'm gonna leave it as blue. So we changed it to blue. And so we want to do the same thing for each of these different text bubbles as we're going along and having them appear. All right. That one, so-so. That's not fun like the emoji race. So the emoji race one is a lot of fun. With the water level app, I'll also just kind of look at this one. For this one, now we're using the Microbit board. And for this one, you want to create an app that simulates an automatic bathtub filler, where the water level rises to a set point, and you should use the A button to raise the water. So as we're pressing the A button, we want the water to go up. So we're kind of thinking of like that Y position value of the water is going to go up. And if it reaches this level, so if Y reaches, say, 275, then we want it to not increase or something like that. When the water goes past the black line of the bathtub, oh, we want this. So when the water reaches past the black line of the bathtub, the Microbit should light up the LEDs to let you know that you are at risk of overflowing. Oh, so we end up then changing the LEDs on the Microbit to then appear. That's kind of cool. All right. I like that one. But I'm going to jump back and I want to go to the emoji race because that is my favorite. And looking at this one, our goal is to create a game that uses the A and B buttons to move the characters down the screen. The first person to reach the bottom of the screen is the winner. So A button will control the red emoji. B button will control the blue emoji. And as we press the two different ones, they will go farther down the screen. So for our instructions, when the A button is pressed, move the red emoji down the screen. And they give us instructions on how to do that if we want to use the counter pattern that you've used to change the Y variable. And then we want to update that. And then as that's moving, we want to use the if the red emoji is at the bottom of the screen, we want to show the red winner screen. So we're going to use an if statement to then determine who won and then change the screen to red winner or blue winner on there. So let's get to our code. Looking at this, we'll look at our code first. We've got red Y and blue Y are our two variables set up already, and they start off at 105. So the A button will control the red emoji. When the A button is pressed, move the red emoji down the screen. Okay. So we need to do a counter for that. So we're going to first change the variable and then move its position of the red emoji. So first we do the counter. We've already created the variables here, so we're going to just change the value of that. So we're going to say red Y is equal to, we want to do plus 5, let's say, like red Y. Well, no, yeah, right? And we're going down the screen, and our Y value increases as we move down the screen. So I'm going to say red Y plus 5. So each time we press the button, that variable will increase by 5. But that's just changing the variable. We haven't moved the emoji yet. To move it, we need to do set property. So now we're actually going to move the emoji based on the update. So I'm going to select here. Oh, I want to select the, it's kind of glitching out for me. When it does that, what you can do is just reload the page. It glitches out from time to time. We all do. All right. Now, I'm going to click on that. It's still not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in the ID. So I can see the ID is red icon, red icon. And what I want to change is the Y position. And we don't want it set because we want this to move as the variable. So we're going to say red Y. All right, let's try this out and see if we're on the right path. So as we press the A button, the red emoji moves down the screen. Nice. Okay. Before we do the blue one, we are going to get the red one working. Now we want to have the whether or not we want to know if it won, right? So we need to decide where's that finish line going to be. And let's make it be 50. No, I'm just kind of looking at I was looking at the X coordinate. I want to look at the Y coordinate. All right, so when it gets to 400, so right here is about 400. So when the Y value gets to 400, then we're going to say who the winner is. So under control, we want to add in an if statement. So we're going to drag that in there. And we want to say if, oh, we already have if there. I'm typing if red Y, if that variable becomes more than 400, then it's the winner. And the way that we say that, so the code that we want down here is we want to change our screen to say red winner. So that's under UI controls and set screen to red winner. And let's run this. So I'm going to move down the screen, and as we're moving along though too, I want to know our debugger here. I want to look at the watcher there. So I'm going to put in red, Y, there we go. There's the variable. So when it gets to 400, we're almost there. And once it gets more greater than 400, then it changes to red player wins. Okay, that was okay. I didn't really like that it went that far down. So you know what? And I think that's because our icons are about 100 by 100. So instead of 400, let's make this, I'm going to make it 300. I want it up higher. And I'm going to add in a finish line as well. So I'm going to click on Design. And I want to add in a finish line. So I'm going to put in a label here. And I want the label to be at, let's see here, 350. Now let's change this to, well, I changed to 300. We'll leave that. But you can adjust this. So I'm going to put that at 300. This will be the finish line. I'm going to drag this across. So I'm turning this label into our finish line. So I'm going to change the text to finish. And a couple of other things I want to change about it is I want to change the background color to red. And the opacity was at 0. That's why we couldn't see it. Okay. And then I want to change the text color to white. All right. And I want to move that text in the middle. So we'll go down here to text align center. All right. Now let's go back to our code. And we've got 300. So let's try this out. Okay, so A is I'm pressing A and it's moving down. So once it gets to 300, that means it will win. And almost there. Okay. No, I still didn't like that though. I want it so that it's there. So I guess really there should be 400, right? Like when it touches it. Okay. That's what we want. Or no, never mind. We want to leave this as, I'm going to leave that as 300. I just want to move my finish line down farther. I'm going to move that to 400. Right? Because the finish line is just a visual thing. It's not actually determining who wins. What decides who wins is here in the code. Is setting that. So when the Y coordinate of the emoji gets to 300, then that decides who wins, whether or not. So looking at our code, what you want to do now is have the same setup for your blue emoji using the B button. Because we've got here the red Y is going to increase, and then it changes the variable, and then it changes the property of it. And then here it's going to have, if the red Y button becomes, if red Y becomes greater than 300, then it sets the red one as the winner. So we want to adjust it so that the blue one does the same thing. So you can do the same thing for the blue emoji. And you're done. And then we want to battle your friends.